I love fishing and I love competing. And I love competing against the best. There's a difference of waking up and going and fishing 5-10 boat tournament and waking up and going and fishing a big open event with 40 or 50 boats. It's exciting. I like to have a lot of energy around it, like to have a great atmosphere, and bring people together.
Hey guys, have you ever considered what goes on behind the scenes of a large-scale bass tournament? From planning to weigh-in, what does it take to put on a great event? How about running one of the most exclusive tournament trails on Lake Lanier, the P.I.T Crew, where current and former professional anglers match their skills against some of the best sticks in the Lake Lanier area? From managing personalities to an absolute demand for fish care, our guest today, Scott Barnes, tells us about both and everything in between. So if you like this video, be sure to subscribe and click that bell so that you'll be notified of any future content. And don't forget to give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram at Fish North Georgia. Now let's get started. Hey man, how you doing?
Doing great, Danny. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you driving out here seeing us this evening.
Just like Jimbo said, in the sticks, man. You guys are in the sticks.
Yeah, we're in the sticks, all right, but we definitely appreciate you taking your time to come out here and see us. So let's tell everybody a little bit about Scott Barnes, who he is.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys having me. Name is Scott Barnes, 50 years old, here and coming for, 20-something years now. Big outdoorsman. Love the outdoors, love fishing, love hunting, but the passion is truly running tournaments and fishing on Lanier. I'm a mortgage banker with USA Mortgage, run a branch in Cumming. Grew up fishing, had a passion for it, loved it, great family time. Just really enjoyed it.
Just kind of give us a little feel of how you were introduced to fishing and, maybe the kind of fishing that you did as a young child.
Yeah, so I owe a lot to my grandmother. My nanny, that's what we called her nanny. She would take me and my cousin onto the Fort Benning Reservation sometimes. My grandfather was a veteran, and she was allowed to go to these ponds on Victory Pond, Kings Pond, Headley's Ponds. All of these are well-known ponds in Fort Benning Reservation. And me and my cousin, Wes, would go fishing with her religiously every Saturday, every Sunday, and there's a story behind this. It's kind of crazy, but she would love to take us so much. We prompted her to take us fishing on a school day.
All right,
and we actually went, and our parents didn't know about it, but old Nanny, she knew about it, right? And this truly happened. We got suspended for skipping for school because we went fishing with our grandmother.
Because you went fishing. I don't know how many people in this world have been suspended for fishing with their grandmother.
Well, we skipped school, and that's the reason they suspended us. But that's a true story that truly happened.
I'm trying to think of if I've done anything crazy with my grandmother ever like that, and I can't think of a single thing. So, your grandmother was, I guess, your hero growing up fishing?
She was.
As far as that is?
Mm-hmm. Cane pole, crickets, worms, and we catch shell cracker that was just as big as your hand. Loved it down there.
So now that you're up here on Lanier, did you just pleasure fish, or did you try to get into the tournament scene?
Yeah, I pleasure fished for quite some years, and then I wanted to get competitive. And had a partner, Kurt Wehunt, and we actually went to Boating Atlanta's, one of their first events on Lanier. Really got into that over several years. Unfortunately, Boating Atlanta tournament trail at that time kind of went away. And when I tell you that there was 60 to 100 participants at these events, it's a big, big thing for the weekend angler to participate in tournaments.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And what we saw was, and I'll give you my experience, is that I was the guy that came to a tournament, I paid my money, I went and fished, I come back, and I weighed my fish in, just like anybody else does today.
Right.
And we did this for 2 years. But then I started to become really good friends with Lee Hartley. He ran the Boating Atlanta tournaments. And what I discovered was the work that was put in to actually holding events. A lot of the anglers that come to the events, they just don't realize the work behind the scenes and the day-to-day that you have to deal with running a tournament. Right. But to answer your question, yes, tournament fishing is huge. We love it, and the anglers support it big time here on Lanier.
Gotcha. So the P.I.T Crew.
Mm-hmm.
What does P.I.T Crew stand for?
P.I.T Crew stands for the Private Invite Tournament. That's what P.I.T stands for.
This is the trail that you currently run.
Yes, sir, it is. And we have about 35 members. And what we did in the past was, let me back up a little bit, is I ran a couple of clubs.
Right.
So these clubs travel to other lakes. And there's a lot of work in going into running a tournament. We'll get into that in just a moment. But what we discovered is that the members that are a part of these clubs, everybody's got personalities. You know, some tensions can flare up every once in a while.
I was going to bring that up.
So the person that's running the tournaments has to maintain those, try to maintain those. And when you make rules into tournaments and how you're going to organize things, you typically make those and everybody has to conform to them if you're part of those clubs.
Right.
Some of those clubs were not successful in my eyes, but a couple of them truly were. The Greater Atlanta Bass Club was one of them, did a phenomenal job, but it just fizzled out because we were traveling to other lakes.
Right.
So when all this went away, we realized we really need to hone in on the guys that truly get and understand how we want. And when I say we formed this group called the P.I.T Crew. And it's a private invite tournament trail that got the best of the best on Lake Lanier. We have current professional fishermen. We have past professional fishermen. And some amazing sticks that are in this P.I.T Crew.
Care to drop a few names?
Yeah, not at all. Jason Johnson with the FLW, Rob Jordan, and also Mark Harden that fished bass previously.
So if I asked you who's the best of the best, I don't think you'll be able to tell me that, would you?
I can't. You know, because any given Sunday, these guys can come out there and crush each other's dreams.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, since you've got such a talented group of guys, how do you, as the director, deal with possible egos? Or are there no egos because these guys know what they're getting into?
Yeah, they know what they're getting into, but I'm open-minded. And so I don't run the club alone. Clay Moss truly helps me out 100% from – he's with me. He and I are basically ones that run the tournament. Yeah, I may be the focal point of the guy that do the advertisement and putting everything together, but I cannot do it without Clay.
Right.
So we're open-minded to the point that when we started this group, we got input from everybody that's part of this group of saying, what did we like with the clubs that we fished in the past?
Right.
What did we not like with these clubs? What can we all agree upon this day going forward? And it's pretty simple basis stuff, man. It's basically fish care. How do you care for the fish? What months are you going to fish? What lakes are you going to fish? How much is the payout going to be? What is the cost going to be? Very simple things that you would think if you were in a club and you understood it, there wouldn't be complaining. But there was. And these guys truly know that this is set forth, laid out, they get it, they come, they play, and they participate, and it's all a big happy family. It really is.
Kind of give me some of the characteristics of some of the fishermen that are the positive characteristics that they bring to this club that makes you want to have people like them fish.
Definitely a guy that has participated with consistency throughout the board, meaning participating in events. What we don't like to see is the guy that's on fish in April when bed season's around, and they come and show up in March and April, and they don't come back. See, what happens is we have 16 events in 2020 lined up, already permitted and ready to go. This group knows that you have to fish 80% of those tournaments. They're $100 a piece. It's bigger stakes, it's higher stakes money, where the average tournament on Lanier is about, $50 to $60. So These guys don't mind paying more money. The payout's going to be 100% on these payouts. So no money is made on the P.I.T Crew club tournament.
Right.
Okay, because there's different types of tournaments that we're going to talk about, such as open events that the P.I.T Crew offers as well for the entire community to come. Those payouts are different. But to answer your question, yes, sir. We want consistent participation. We want the hardcore guys. If it's raining outside, windy outside, and we schedule an event, we want them to come. But we also have safety features that are in place that we will call a tournament if it's just ridiculous to go out and fish.
Right.
You got safety comes first.
Absolutely.
But
do you have a championship?
We do not. That's something we've eliminated.
Okay.
Due to the fact that you can have 100% payout at every single tournament.
Basically, it's 16 tournaments, no championship, no points, no nothing. It's you come, you win, you get the money, and that's it.
That's correct.
And these guys like that. That's the way they like it.
They like it. Here's why. With other clubs, there's a membership fee. We don't even charge a membership fee.
Gotcha.
There's monthly dues. We don't charge monthly dues. We have 16 tournaments. Those tournaments are $100 a boat, and the payout for every single one of those tournaments that we're going to have is 100% payout. The people that come and participate in these events are the best of Lanier, and they have the egos, but they're really good egos from the standpoint of, hey, I'm going to be up against the best of the best, and if I win one of these things, I've done something.
You know, you mentioned Jason Johnson, and I'm friends with him, and I've noticed the last few tournaments that you've had, you know, they put pictures on, and ounces sometimes just separates first and third, first and fourth, and he's always been very congratulatory towards the guys that, you know, that I've seen like that. So I assume that is the mindset that you want of the fishermen. If you're going to get beat, you're getting beat by somebody that is on your level or even better than you.
Sure.
You know, every month, I would assume.
Sure, and every one of the guys that are in this club can squash another man's dream real quick. I mean, we've literally seen bags that have been brought in at 20 pounds, and 20.75 comes in and wins the tournament. And we have so many strong people that are actually in this group that I really think could be at the professional level. Brad Wiley, Justin Beavers. I mean, I may forget a few, but I mean, these guys are known sticks on Lanier, and that just kind of gives you the core group of what we're dealing with this particular group.
Basically, it's an all-star series kind of.
It is. I guess you could put it that way.
If you want to, if you're saying the best of the best, and that's it. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go. You mentioned that with the P.I.T Crew, you also have open tournaments. Mm-hmm. What are the little nuances and the differences with that as far as club tournament, open tournament?
Yeah, so an open tournament is outside of our normal P.I.T Crew club that we have. And so what that does, it allows the community public anglers that want to fish a tournament to come out and fish, because we have opened our doors that says anybody and everybody can come up into 80 boats maximum.
Gotcha.
And the reason for that is because the type of permit that's required to have an open tournament, the insurance that's involved with it, it kind of has a capacity of 80 boats, especially at Little Hall. And so it brings to us all different skill sets, all different levels. And we love it, you know, and here's why. You see a father and son coming out fishing for the day, and they want to come out and compete. We see a husband and wife coming out, you know, to participate. And then we see, you know, all different skill sets coming. So when they come out, what we do is we let them know, here's how the format's going to run today, the opening hours, when we're going to blast off, the rules that are involved, weigh-in process, and all coming in. And the payout for those is about 90%. I do a 90% payout, and the other 10% is we're taking, meaning the P.I.T Crew. So take, for example, that you have 60 boats.
Right.
I've got $6,000 at $100. I am taking $600 and putting it into the P.I.T Crew's fund for our permits for the following year.
Gotcha.
We don't make any money doing this. I'm not making any money. I'm putting forth my time. Clay Moss is putting forth his time to help and assist. And we recruit a couple of other people because it takes a team.
Right.
You know, you've got to be there at registration. You've got to be able to collect money, record the names, send people out, check their boats out. When they come in, you've got to be set up with your scales, got to make certain that your scales are operating correctly, which scales are not cheap, and we can get into that in just a moment too, tell you about kind of the equipment that we have. But we're also trying to create a welcoming atmosphere. We want everybody to come. We want to see smiles on their faces. We've actually added a different element to my open tournaments. I have my daughter coming out taking some amazing shots and photos, high speed, videos. We're posting all of that, and we're not making any money. That's what I want people to realize. We are doing this simply because we enjoy fishing. We want people to know to come out and enjoy it, and you can compete. And here's a little bit added extra. We're going to put a few videos up. We're going to put some pictures up that are really, really cool to see. And we may add another element too, that where, we have a couple of photographers in a couple of boats filming some catches and some other things, and upload on the media, because everything's going to digital today.
Everything is, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you get the guy or a couple of guys that really just want to rub elbows with the best of the best and go at it with them and just see how they stack up against them on a given day.
You're right, and that really brings out some other unknowns, that are truly good. We have certainly witnessed where we've stepped back and said, wow, this guy came to play, He could compete with the P.I.T Crew. But, yeah, a lot of the open events that we have, the P.I.T Crew members are there as well because it's fishing. We want to participate and have fun.
So knowing that you've added different elements like, the pictures, the videos, the social media with the P.I.T Crew, do you see any changes in the near future that you guys might be incorporating?
Yeah, Danny, great question. Big news is coming out. Tim Hawkins at Hammonds has already started the works, and we've sampled this yesterday. It's actually what they call, it's very similar to the MLF style fishing, and what that is where, fish are released immediately after caught and weighed in your boat. The normal tournament today that we put on is done correctly. Fish care is a priority. It's done right. But where we see the future going is to make certain we continue to promote fish care.
Right.
And so what Tim has done is he's created an app on a phone. He's got the set of handheld scales that are absolutely accurate. We've been testing them for quite some time now. We actually tested them yesterday. It's phenomenal how accurate it is. There's a little bit of a process of what we have to do, but imagine this. You're running a tournament, but you don't have to bring scales. I don't have to get involved with any of this. The scheduling can be even easier. But you go out, you fish with your partner. Every fish that you catch now, you video it once it is in your hands and you're weighing that fish. You're videoing it on your phone. Your partner's videoing it. It's recording the weight. You're dropping the fish into the water, being recorded, and then you access the app and you're putting in the weight of the fish because you've got confirmation what the fish weighed on that scale. And so it tallies up through the day, but not only with your weight, with everybody in the tournament. So when you're looking, it does two things now. Number one, fish care. Number two, it's going to drive you crazy because you're
scoreboard watching.
You're scoreboard watching, and you're going to say, "Hey, man, I've done pretty good right here. We've got 14 pounds, and it's 9:00 in the morning." And then you log on and go, yeah. Justin Beaver's got 18.2 right now. I better get with it. So, but yeah, I see things evolving. I see things changing for the betterness of the tournament fishing. And I think the P.I.T Crew will probably adapt to this about mid-2020 to really hone in on getting this out there. Now, what Tim does with it after that, there may be larger scales on Lanier with this.
Right.
But it's unknown, but one thing is known. It's coming, and it's big news.
So you're going to go from, right now it's a best 5 or best of 3.
Correct.
You're going to a cumulative.
No, I didn't say that, Danny. Don't be
so,
speculating now.
So still your best 5 fish.
That's the way we're working on it right now. Absolutely, because there's a lot of people that are out there that love the MLF style fishing, and there's a lot of people that like the energy behind it, the video and everything, but they don't like the catching 25, 30 of them.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay, so you're going to stick with the 5.
But you know what? It actually adds an element. I should mix things up. I should say, hey, today's your best 5. Tomorrow is going to be unlimited. It's cumulative weight.
You can call that.
I like the way you're thinking.
Fish North Georgia Day on for the P.I.T Crew there.
All right, checks in the mail.
Yeah,
but no, Tim.
I got you.
Tim and Brian have really honed in on this and have put a lot of thought into it. I am nothing more than communicating what they've done. This is not my product, and I'm not taking credit for it. It's very important that everybody knows that once we get this rolling, I'm just going to probably incorporate it into my group and see how everybody likes it. Yes, sir.
I got you. And so pretty much this is unheard of on this level.
Absolutely is.
So this is new, state of the art right here.
Correct.
That's awesome. What is the largest tournament you've personally been responsible for as far as number of boats?
Well, that was considered a kind of a byproduct of an open. It was a charity event, okay? So this past October, I was contacted by a Ryan Watson that was a SWAT member for the Hall County Police Department.
Right.
And we had discovered and realized that Officer Dixon was killed in the line of duty. And he kind of approached me and said, hey, you know, I really wanted to do something good for the family and put something together. Do you think you would participate and help with putting a tournament on? I quickly grabbed hold of it and really wanted to make this something meaningful for the family. I had no idea what it would turn into.
Right.
But I also quickly realized that this is out of my scale, that I'm in my comfort zone, what I'm able to work with. I can run a 30, 35, 40 boat tournament, no problem. But when you start talking 80 to 100 to 200 boats to where it could possibly be, you had to call in some big guns. And I tell you, this story kind of may be long-winded, and I may not recognize everybody, but it's very important that we do. I realized that this could be a huge event that could really benefit a family. The cause was there, and what I had to do was to market, advertise for the anglers to see it, and bring them in. Mm-hmm. That was just stage one of me thinking, not actually doing.
Right.
Stage two is, I can't do this on my own. I have to have help. So I contacted David Freeman over at Boating Atlanta, and David never hesitated. I told him what we were talking about doing. He jumped in and basically helped out with this. Several people did, and I'll mention them in just a moment. But David runs a fine tournament trail. Boating Atlanta Skeeter Challenge, does a great job, has all the equipment needed, trailer, staff, full blown.
Right.
He's got the capability to run 200 boats. So he jumped in and helped. You've got sponsorships from Hammonds, Oakwood Bait and Tackle, Ryan Coleman, Jimbo, Phil Johnson, Steve Stanfield, a number of people, and I'm probably forgetting so many. Brian Hinkle, Dwayne Lee, so many of these people helped organize this. Yeah, I may have been the guy that put stuff on Facebook, right, and may have been the face there at the tournament, but here's how this all worked out. We had over 80 some odd boats that come out and paid $150 to fish. Our P.I.T Crew tournament's $100.
Right.
This tournament for a charity was $150. The payout for the charity event was only at 50%. So do the math. You only had $75 going in the pot for the fishermen. You had $75 going toward the family. Then you had sponsorships like John Meagle, Zoom Bait Company, Dwayne Lee with AA Termite. They donated additional monies for the big fish pot. So at the end of the day, with 82 people being there and multiply that by 2, you had 160 participants, mm-hmm, 2 per boat. Then you had family. Then you had spectators, right, to come. We sold raffle tickets. The raffle tickets that were sold at $1 a piece, but we had to have prizes to give out for the raffles. The generosity of the community alone that provided the gifts and the prizes to go in were basically products and goods and services of their business that they donated out of their own pocket and free will for the raising of the money. A charity event is not successful without money.
Right.
And who truly gets 100% notoriety of this event are the anglers that came.
Right.
Because you cannot have a successful charity event without money, but guess where the money's coming from? It's coming from the participants.
Right.
And those anglers that signed up and put their money on this charity event knew going in that 50% is basically going to the family.
Right.
That's generosity.
So very unselfish.
Very unselfish. Generosity was there. And what was very heartwarming is that we had the family there to witness who was winning the tournaments. We know we paid out several places. I can't remember, maybe 10 or 11 places. I can't truly remember. But what was amazing is that a 12-year-old boy, Churchill Harris is his name. His father's name, Sam Harris. They fish with our pit crew. And I believe the kid won over $1,700. His name was announced. He walked up. He was the first one to announce. And David gave him $1,700 or whatever the figure was. And the kid stood there and said, "Can I see your microphone?" Because, I had the microphone there. And he grabbed the microphone and he looked at the family. And without any hesitation, he says, "I'd like to donate my winnings back to you and your family."
That's unreal.
It's unbelievable. So he set the tone for several of the winners that were coming in, the 11 behind him. This young man at 12 years old, being selfless, said, "Here's the money." Many of the teams did the same thing. Now, the numbers are not completely tallied right now, but our estimations with the raffle, the money that's coming in, there's going to be $11,000 to $12,000 that we're going to be able to donate to the family just because how the angler community came together.
That is absolutely a great story.
Yeah, it's good, man.
And again, the officer's name?
Officer Nicholas Dixon.
Nicholas Dixon.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into the actual running of a tournament, because when I asked you to come on, I had noticed on Facebook you were always putting a post up about the tournaments and all that. And in my mind, I'm thinking it's got to be a little bit more than that. Just putting something on Facebook and saying, show up and here's the money. There's a lot that goes on to a tournament.
Sure it is.
And especially on a large level.
Yeah, so a lot of moving parts here, but a couple of things for sure is you got to have a schedule.
Right.
You got to make certain that you got rules.
Mm-hmm.
Got to have payout. And you got to make certain that you got permits, promote safety. And I'll kind of bullet point each of those real quick, and I may ad-lib and give a few more things. Right. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. But scheduling is important. Pretty simple. Open up the calendar, look at it. Weekends, what's going to be a good weekend? Try to incorporate 2 tournaments a month, 1 tournament, and eliminate summer months. We don't like fishing in the summer. We truly don't. Just crazy on Lake Lanier. Then contact the Corps, and you got to have permits for each specific event. One's a special activity permit, which allows you to have 49 boats or less.
Right.
It's $100 to utilize a little haul. One is called the special event permit, which is for 50 boats and beyond, which requires $1 million policy worth of insurance, and the Corps of Engineers actually named on that insurance. But those are the 2 types of permits that are needed depending on how many boats you're going to have. Then you got to kind of market and advertise the tournament, and trying to bring people to come to these events. Right. We do that on Facebook. We do that on, flyers or what have you. Then, you got to incorporate the people to help you at these events. Set up, registration, take the money, count the money, put it in envelopes, have it ready. So once you're done weighing in, you're able to pay those people out and let them move on for their day. Things like that.
What about rules?
Yeah, so, every club should have rules without a doubt. The way that P.I.T Crew has kind of put together their rules is from past experience of being in these other clubs, what did work and what didn't work.
Right.
We kind of came together as a group, and the group kind of decided what would work for us. Without getting into our rules specific, you just have to have the basics things in place. Right. And then if you want to add specifics that's only going to apply to your group, then add them. But I recommend getting buy-in from everybody. Okay. The basic rules are, wear your life vest when the big engine's crank. Pretty common sense,
absolutely,
right? You think.
Absolutely, yes.
Safety's number one. Live wells working, lights are on, 5 fish minimum, penalties if it's involved. If you ever bring a dead fish in, we'd like to use a ½ pound. It's pretty stout. Right. It's pretty stout.
It is.
But rules are rules, and they're pretty basic across the board of any tournaments that you fish, not only mine, but others that are out there. And,
right.
and everybody kind of incorporates their own rules.
Let's talk a little bit about fish care because you brought it up a lot.
Okay.
Maybe you can give somebody out there kind of, some of the tips that you find help extend the life of a fish that, in the old format. So I imagine with the new format that might not, once it takes hold, that won't be an issue.
Right.
But as it sits right now.
Yeah. So summer months are the worst.
Right.
Without a doubt. Water temperature reaches 79, 80 degrees or higher. We basically eliminate fishing. We do not fish in the summer months. However, if we have a May and June tournament and it has been hot for several weeks and it does reach to these levels, we will actually go to a 3-fish limit rather than our 5-fish. Why do we do that? It's debatable. People can say, man, if you can keep 3 alive, you can keep 5 alive.
Right.
Well, at the end of the day, we chose as our group to make this rule, and this is what we go by, right? We really hate to see other groups that are running the tournaments having these 5-fish tournaments in the summer and without enforcing their participants to bring ice, to have oxygen. Hammond sells oxygen in a oxygen tank, medical grade oxygen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you actually run a tube into your live well and pump oxygen into that. You pull these big, deep spotted bass out of deep water.
Right.
That could be 20 degrees less than what surface temperatures are. So if you got 80-degree surface temperatures and you're pulling them out of 20 feet of water, it could be a 20-degree difference. So their body is already stabilized at 60-degree water temperature.
Right.
Well, when you're jumping to the lake with your boat and you start to fill your live wells up, you're getting surface water.
Right.
You're getting 80-degree water. You need to cool it down. You need to put ice in it. You need to have oxygen in it. Then once the fish comes out of 20 feet of water, typically that's what they do in the summer, and you put them in a live well, it helps them. But we've decided not to have a 5-fish limit, to go to 3 fish
Right.
in some of those hot months. So that's vital. In the winter, it's a little bit different for fish care from a standpoint of catching fish deep, and they come in. Water temperature is really cool. We don't worry about live well water temperature in the winter.
Right.
But the fish will start to float upside down.
Right.
So several things are out there right now. I mean, we actually use a deflating needle.
Mm-hmm.
You can get them online for $5 or $6. Tim may have them. Tackle Warehouse certainly has them.
Right.
You need to look on YouTube how to operate them, how to run them. I always have one at my tournament that if we notice that we've got fish that are floating, we will go out and deflate the fish. But the guys that fish our club, we rarely ever have them because they take care of it themselves.
Right. Do you, just talking about deflating fish, your personal preference, through the mouth or through the side?
Mouth.
Through the mouth.
My personal preference is through the mouth.
Is it easier, or you just think it's more effective?
I think it's more effective and easier.
Right.
You've got a needle trying to take a scale off on the side or lift the scale up and go through and puncture through that, when you can just open the mouth and go right through. I call them the chompers. And then while he's under the water in your live well and going through, it happens like that.
Maybe for somebody listening who doesn't quite understand what is going on with the fish, you could explain to them.
Yeah, so I'm certainly not a biologist, but I'll let you know.
Do your best.
Hey, man, they're just coming up floating, and they're floating in my live well.
That's the way I would say it.
From what I think is happening, and
right.
Somebody will correct me or make comments on the podcast, I'm sure, if you let them comment. But I think what's happening is their swim bladder is expanding because you're reeling them in, and they're coming from certain depths, and you're reeling them pretty fast. Well, all that oxygen and their swim bladder's bloated.
Gotcha.
And so if it's bloated and they're sitting in your live well, they can't stabilize.
Right.
That's what my assumption is. Okay?
I think that's as good as I would say.
Sounded pretty good, right?
It sounds very good.
Yeah,
it sounds like
good.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah. So we let them sit in there for a few minutes to take a look, and we may fish for 30 minutes or so and check on them, because sometimes they will stabilize.
Right.
If I don't have to poke a fish with a needle, guess what? I'm not going to poke a fish with a needle.
I got you. Will it eventually die if you do not do that?
I don't really know.
See, I've never let one go that far. So
I've never let one go that far either. I mean, I take care of it.
Right.
So I would assume it can never go back. If you release that fish in the water after a weigh-in and he's still floating on top, yeah, he's probably going to die.
I think we will find somebody smarter than us that can give us the scientific.
Yeah.
But for right now, I think that's a perfect
There
explanation.
you go. I understand you're going to have Rob Jordan on here, possibly.
Possibly. We have contacted him, and he has said to contact him during his off-season, his slow season later on. So
good guy, and he can explain all of that to you.
That would be good. I'll go ahead and write that question down for him. So you're at a tournament. People have weighed in fish. Got to still be fish care responsibility still left to do.
Yeah, from start to finish. So I'm up there setting my scales up, have everything ready, and I say, scales are ready. Well, those fish are being taken out of live wells, put into bags with water. It's very important. I know that sounds crazy, right? But you got to have water in your bag.
Absolutely.
You'd be surprised at some of the open events, how many people have come to the weigh-in, come to the scales and have fish in a bag and no water.
Are you serious?
They never come back, I assure you. I don't allow them to come back.
I understand why.
So here it is. Yeah, fish care is important. Water in your bag, enough water. Put your fish in the bag. Get in line to weigh your fish. It may be 10 people deep in the line. Doesn't take long to weigh them. Once you dump your bag into the weigh station, the water will come directly back out that you can retrieve into your bag.
Right.
I weigh the fish. Clay Moss certainly helps us out with every event, gives the fish back to the fisherman. He goes back to the lake and releases them. That's where it's important as well. Go to the dock at the deepest point and take those spotted bass and give them a chance by putting them back into the deeper water rather than letting them go in 2 feet of water right by the ramp. They've got to get down to that water pretty quick, the deeper parts where they live.
Right.
So it's important to follow that process. And all of our guys, at the pit actually do that. And all these other tournaments as well, but it's just very important to exercise great fish care.
What's your opinions on the additives to the water?
Yeah, I like to use them. I use G-Juice.
Right.
I've heard some stories, and again, I'm not a biologist, but I have witnessed this, not personally, but seen it. So my understanding is that if you're running oxygen out of the tanks that I described earlier or in this segment, and you use Rejuvenate, there's a difference.
Right. Totally different product than
Totally different
G-Juice.
product. Oxygen and Rejuvenate, from my understanding, does not work, and you will have some dead fish.
Really?
Correct. I'm not, again, disclaimer, no guarantee that is actual 100%, but we've seen a lot of it.
Just experience, you've noticed that.
Yeah. G-Juice and oxygen absolutely works good.
I wonder why that is.
I don't know, but that's what I'm using. That's what I'll continue to use.
And you have confidence in that.
I sure do.
So when you have an angler bring a fish to the weigh scale and you've got a situation where you've got a hook way down deep, any special ways you deal with that?
Yeah, actually, the right tools are important to have without a doubt. And you got to be careful with that. They all don't make it, but, I think, 90% of the time, if you know what you're doing, you can take that hook out without harming the fish. So, got to determine where the hook is, where the barb is, and what part of the mouth and how deep it is. And typically what you like to do is just poke it through. And once you poke it through, have the right tools, some not 10 snips, but some snips that you can still get into the mouth, snap the barb off, and then just pull it completely out. But make certain that barb does not fall back into the throat.
Right.
Okay? So there are ways to do that, and we see a high percentage of survival with doing it the proper way. Do some not make it? Yeah, but if you're putting forth the effort rather than just throwing that fish back that's deep hook, I've always heard stories, it'll rust out.
That's what I was getting ready to ask you.
I'm not a biologist. I wouldn't want rust in my throat.
Right.
Do you want rust in a bass's throat? I don't know.
I was getting ready to ask that because I've always heard my entire life, if it's down deep, just let them swallow it.
Yeah.
Or, it'll be fine. It'll rust out.
Yeah.
But it seems that, we always see those type of fish floating upright sooner or later.
That's correct.
Since we're talking about fish care, maybe you can give us a little example of how you guys prep your live wells or precautions that you might take.
Yeah, sure. So, clean is better, right?
Right.
Depending on where you fish, I've heard stories before that, you can be fishing another lake in Florida or Chickamauga, and if you don't clean your live wells out and you put in at Lake Lanier, you can bring a plant or some kind of invasive species to another lake. I've heard of this before, right? And
I'm a little floored by that comment because I've never thought about it, but I guess that is true.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. So a clean live well, in my opinion, I mean, I don't want to take a bath if the bathtub's dirty, right?
Right, absolutely.
I don't want to put a fish in there if the live well's dirty. So I like to clean my live wells out about once a month.
And what would you use?
I use peroxide and water, and I fill it up in a scrub brush, and I know that I've personally cleaned it, and it's not spotless, but it's clean.
Right.
But after I'm done with that process, I run it through the live wells, meaning fill it up, use some peroxide, use some hot water, scrub it really good, turn your live wells on, because what that does is it goes through the filtration system.
Right.
It goes through, the motor. It goes through all of the tubing that goes out there, and continue to run it. After you do that, fill it up with water only a couple more times and run it through the drain system. So you want to kind of get all of that out. You don't want to have that in there as contaminants, when you're going out fishing, but highly recommend that. Now, during a tournament, hot summer months, add ice, add oxygen to it. You're going to have, a better success of survival percentages with those fish being in a live well. It's very cool.
And that's something I would imagine that with the P.I.T Crew is pretty much like a standard thing.
Standard.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It sure is.
That's awesome. I think it should be that way everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's talk about you getting ready to put on a tournament.
Yeah.
Maybe give us a little example of what the night before is like.
Yeah. You got to have scales at a tournament.
Right.
And you got to make certain they work. I have been to one tournament on Lake Lanier this past summer and many people witnessed this. I felt so bad for the guy, really, too. So, and some people are probably laughing while they're listening and reading this because they were there.
They were there. They know.
Yeah. Anyway, regardless, everybody came, showed up, paid their money. And at this one event, when you weigh a basket of fish on a quality scale, you should have a locking mechanism to lock that scale and it record the weight. It was amazing to see that, this never locked in. And the tournament director was calling weights that you had no set confirmation that it was just bouncing from 14.15 to, 12.97, and he'd call 13 pounds. Well, that's not an accurate weight. So, the night before, I have to definitely, check my scales. You got to have scales for a tournament.
Right.
So I go out and test my equipment. I do run off of main power. I do not run off a battery. But you still want to have that confidence that you're going to go out and check before I load them into the truck. I want to make certain they're working properly, so I'm confident in the morning at weigh in at 3 o'clock the next day they're going to work. So you got to do that. Number 2 is you got to have your registration forms. So I print out the registration forms, the payout sheets, have everything in line, put everything into the truck that I'm going to need for that tournament from registration standpoint to weigh in.
What brand of scales do you use? Yeah,
so I use the pro tournament scales called the H2O. And these scales have the locking mechanism in that I was telling you about. I mean, obviously, they've got some really cool marketing. It's why a lot of people use them. Hammonds use them. I use them. Boating Atlanta use them, and they're not cheap. I mean, a set of scales are going to cost you $1,500.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's not like going down to the local Office Depot and buying those scales. However, those can be used, but you don't want that to be at this tournament. You want these tournaments to lock in, be able to be accurate, and call the weight. I send them back every year to make certain that they're certified, cleaned, and work properly. Without a doubt, that's what you want to start your season up. So those scales are vital to have if you're running events like I run.
In a tournament, with all the rules, any unwritten rules, kind of like baseball, just certain things are off limits. We don't have to write that down. It's just something that's known.
Yeah, absolutely. One pops to my head immediately is, you don't cut anybody off that's fishing, 100 yards down from you. You don't have this one dock that's sitting down there and he's not got to it yet, but he's 3 docks down. So I'm going to go jump in here and fish that dock. That's a no. That's an unwritten rule, and you do not do that. You don't cut them off. The other is with Lanier, the electronics have changed everything.
Yes,
today.
they have.
So there's a lot of people that do what we call yard work, meaning that there is a lot of brush piles on Lake Lanier.
Yes, there is. Yep.
And those brush piles can be on a community hump or a community point that there's 3 more that are around the same area.
Right.
It's hard to say it's an unwritten rule, but it really is, to the point that, if you find these brush piles with today's electronics, some people get really, really, really upset because you're fishing that one that they put in. You follow what I'm saying?
Gotcha. They did the work there.
Yeah. So it gets pretty touchy with those situations, and I know it sounds crazy, but you kind of respect somebody. And then if somebody takes you somewhere and shows you something. Now, look, I've been on the lake for 20-something years. I know every part of the lake, but what I don't know is that, in this creek, halfway down, somebody didn't put a brush pile in there. I may not know that, but I fished that creek, right?
Right.
If I discover that brush pile, well, I'll probably fish it. But if someone takes me to it and I don't know that it's there, and they're like, hey, there's a brush pile right here, I put it in, I'm going to fish it. My respect level is I'll never come back here and fish that brush pile. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's an understanding. I wouldn't say unwritten rules. I would say that type of etiquette is there to where you respect someone to do those types of things.
Since you brought up electronics,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that has, well, we know it's changed the game.
Man, big time.
But what do you think that it's done to the fisherman's, is it enhanced the skill level, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Could these same guys that you're seeing on TV be as good without them?
Man, that's a tough question
That's
right
what
there.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see if we should just run a tournament sometimes without electronics.
And see, in our
having your graph and your maps fine, but no sonar, right?
Well, see, in our very first podcast that we ever did with Shane Dover, we brought that up. The possibility of having a tournament where you can't do that, just to see, the difference that it makes. So you think maybe that would,
It would on certain times of the year. I think during the spring, I don't need a graph.
Gotcha.
I do not need a graph in the spring. I'm going to be a bank beater. The fish are spawning. Shad spawn's happening.
You know where they're at.
I'm running, bank. I mean,
right.
That's it, or blow-throughs or what have you. I don't need it. You give it winter and summer.
Yeah,
that'd be very interesting.
Maybe that'll be another Fish North Georgia tournament.
There you go.
Do.
There you go.
Sonar free.
I like that. I actually do.
Send the check.
Yeah.
Right.
Cut checks in the mail.
Checks in the mail. All right. So let's talk about night tournaments. You guys do any?
Yeah. So Hammonds actually has a run of night tournaments. I think last year was Tuesday night, but typically it's been on Wednesday nights. Hours may be off a little bit what I'm about to say, but I think that it's about 6 to 10:30.
Right.
4.5 hour tournament. Wednesday, middle of the week, right? A lot of the guys get out there and they fish for 4.5 hours. Night fishing is much different than day fishing. Obviously, dark and light.
Right.
You can see what you're doing in the day. Safety becomes a bigger factor at night than it does in the day. Safety is always important, but night fishing is done in the summer. And so if the summer brings pleasure boats and jet skiers and all of these other personal watercraft that's out there,
however you want to say it.
Yeah. That a lot of accidents happen because those people, I shouldn't say those people, but leave it in. Leave it in.
Yeah.
You don't have to edit that.
No, I agree.
Those people, they really cause problems by not knowing what a shoal marker means, not knowing that if you see a shoal marker and a point right there, in between the shoal marker and the point is probably that deep of water.
Right.
It indicates something. Mm-hmm. Bass fishermen, they've got electronics. They have maps. They can see the deep water before they even hit it. 500 yards down the lake, they can set their maps up and GPSs up to know where's the shallow, where's the hazards and everything. And they can still run 45, 50 miles an hour at night.
Right.
But the pleasure boaters can cause some accidents. And anyway, importance of safety at night, lights, number one. Always, no, I don't care if it's day or night, your life vest and kill switch being on. But yeah, it's much different. Fishing can be incredible. I mean, spinner bait at night, crankbait at night, jig and worm. Some monster bags have been caught, and largemouth show up, believe it or not, a lot of these weigh-ins. More at night tournaments than they do in day tournaments. Yeah, largemouth show up on a lot of these tournaments in the daytime during the spring when, they're spawning.
Right.
Night fishing, dead in the summer, 9 times out of 10, someone that catches a big old light, we call it a light fish because all the green lights that are out there floating up under the docks brings a lot of fish to it. And, I'm not disclosing anything that nobody doesn't know. It's truth.
Right.
People fish lights at night. And when they do, and they find a good light, and they catch some big largemouth, that's typically what wins a night tournament.
Really, that's interesting.
Seen it year after year, and I've actually won several of those.
Just
beating my chest right here, but it was years ago, right?
No, that's fine, absolutely. If you've got the trophy, you've got the trophy. Yeah. So, on these tournaments with a large number of boats, what's the process for determining the blast off, the order in the morning?
Yeah, very simple. Just when that angler has signed up, we give them a boat number. And also a weigh-in time. We have what they call flights for weigh-in. So if you have 90 boats, typically it's in 30 boat flights. The first 30 are doing it 3 o'clock. Second 30 are doing it 3:15, 15-minute intervals and so forth. But for blast-off purposes, it's you got to be very, very safe. Make some announcement. I have a bullhorn. The actual process is, you're sitting in your boat. I'm sitting in my boat and standing up. And I'm announcing, the rules or the time to be back in. The official time, I want everybody to know, hey, the official time is based on me, and the official time is, 6:59. They need to be looking at their watches and phones to make certain they're on because they don't want a late penalty coming back in if they're not on the same time.
Right.
So giving some announcements and going through that, but also I call out boat numbers. Now, they all got their boat number when they register, and they should know it. And I want them to come by me with their live wells open to make certain that there's no fish already in the live well, right?
Absolutely.
So I'll be standing on my boat and calling out boat number 1 and 2, come by me. So they'll come by me, I'll look in their boats, and they take off. But you have to give them enough distance between one another so no accidents can happen, or I'm going to be responsible for sending them out too early. The daylight, you want to have safe light. And I really like to have safe light. And it's hard to really determine. You're about to ask me, I think.
I'm getting ready to ask you, what is safe light?
Yeah, it's man, I want to be able to see pretty daggum good. 1,000 yards. I want to be able to see 1,000 yards in front of me.
Okay.
And see, the horizon. I don't want it to be full daylight of, sun's up.
Right.
Because fish bite early, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to get them out there in a comfortable time, but in a safe time. And send them out with enough space in between them that I'm not going to cause the accident of them getting out too early and too close to one another.
I'm going to ask this question only because it's an experience that Josh and I had 2 weeks ago. Granted, it's an electric-only tournament, so when we blast off, top speed's 3 miles an hour. But we were in such a blanket of fog up on Rocky Mountain PFA.
Oh, yeah.
You could not see. It was terrible. What are your rules concerning fog?
Yeah, I make that call. 100%. If I can't see, number one, with fog, I said 1,000 yards earlier. I don't have nothing to really determine. I don't have a rangefinder out there.
Right.
But man, if it's too foggy, I don't send them. Everybody understands. Now, some of them may be disgruntled and go, man, we can make it. We got GPS. We can ride. I don't care.
Right. So safety first on that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So safe light is my light.
Gotcha. Okay.
I guess that's the best way to say it, right?
That's perfect.
Yeah. Safe light is when I say it's safe light.
When it's safe light. Okay. Absolutely. So given the amount of tournaments that are running on Lake Lanier, and we'll just use Lake Lanier because that's where you guys are at, over the course of the summer, what do you think that does to the fishing pressure, how it makes the fishing change as the summer goes on or the year goes on?
Wow. That's a big topic right there, and it's one that's on the lake quite a bit and a lot of talk. We're on a world-class spotted bass lake.
Right.
We're getting more and more exposure every single year with the big, huge tournaments, the BASS, the FLW, BFL. It's coming, and be prepared. It's a money generating business that is being brought to the lake. While I support fishing, and while I support business, it saddens me to see the lake getting beat up so many weekends, and I'm one of the problems. I run tournaments.
Right.
So it's a double-edged sword. High school is huge right now. They had a 300 and some odd boat tournament not too long ago. They have one every month. Kids need to be fishing. I support that wholeheartedly, 100%. I support all the tournaments that are coming to the lake, that if they're done properly, with the number one thing that I always come back to is fish care. Knowing that we have a world-class spotted bass lake here in Georgia at Lake Lanier. Come to the lake. Welcome it. We welcome you. Take care of our fish.
Right. And
that's all you can ask to do, and educate people. Take the time that if you see something being done wrong, the handling of the fish, too many fish being weighed in the summer months, eliminate summer tournaments. If it was me, I would totally eliminate summer fishing. And some people also want to eliminate tournament fishing during the spawn. I'm leaning toward that a little bit. Somebody's got to take a stance. And, I try to take, not me, but the P.I.T Crew. I try to make the P.I.T Crew a role model of other events that are trying to come that are not the Boating Atlanta. They know what they're doing.
Right.
Nothing, I'm not saying. The people that are putting these other tournaments together that are not at the levels of the Boating Atlanta or the BFL. Listen, come together. Let's all get educated. Let's work together to sustain our lake. That's basically it. We got to take care of the fish and don't have these summer tournaments. It's just something that's going to jeopardize what we've got here.
Yeah, it goes back to something again. I saw Johnson's post picture with the 5+ pound spot he caught, and one of the comments he made was these things are getting fewer and farther or harder, but in between catching these things. They're not as, they may be out there. I don't know if they're fishing pressure or what. What's your take on that?
It's sad, but it's true. And Jason's right. They're rare to come by right now, in my opinion. The weights have typically, and I've got data, and I've looked at the data too. The larger weights are coming in the winter and coming in the spring. You're not seeing big weights, in the fall or in the summer. So winter and spring is when you're seeing your bigger fish. And last year, we didn't see a lot of 5 pound spots weighed in.
Really?
Yeah. My biggest spot on the lake is 6 pounds even, caught in the Hammonds tournament, and that's recorded. I want everybody to know that, it did happen.
It happened, all right.
So, yeah, I caught a 6 pound spot, and the biggest largemouth that I've ever caught in my life, okay? I grew up in Eufaula. I fished Gunnersville. I fished West Point. The biggest largemouth that I've ever caught was caught at Lake Lanier in 2 Mile Creek in January on a spinnerbait in 8 feet of water, and it weighed 10 pounds, 0.19 ounces. It was a phenomenal fish, and it was caught in a tournament. Unbelievable day.
What do you think, as a tournament director, you can do long term to help heal the lake if you think it's hurting right now? Maybe use your influence in a way to help that?
What I discussed earlier, and I'm going to look in the camera and tell everybody, with what Tim Hawkins is doing with this new technology is something that is vital for fish care. There's too many tournaments on the lake at any given week, but you can't stop it.
Right.
So you got to face those facts. So what can we do as responsible anglers to improve the fish care and hopefully the survival of the fish? And maybe implementing this new technology that he's coming up with, and have a tournament format to where that format allows you to catch that fish that came 20 yards from where you just caught it, because your boat's still there. You weigh it and you release the fish, and it goes back to its home. That's where he lives. Versus put him in a live well. Let's run 7 miles to 8 miles all day in wavy water, beat him up and down with 4 more good 5 pounds quality spotted bass in the live well, they're dizzy as hell. We go weigh them in, and we put them back in water that we don't know where they're going to go. So I think the influence that I can give is to assist and help and promote. That's what I want to do and educate with this new thing that Tim's coming out with.
This technology that Tim has invented, is there a anticipated date of release to the public?
Yeah, so it's still in testing right now. We've got to work some bugs out. My group is helping him test the units, and I would think that maybe mid 2020 it might be rolled out to exclusively our group. I got to get a buy-in first. Trust me.
Right.
I'm a big believer in fish care, and we have to get the buy-in from the group that is for this. And there's a lot of specifics I don't want to get into, but let me just assure you and just hit some highlights of some concerns. The concerns is, hey, is somebody really videoing that fish the right way? We want to make certain they're showing the fish and the guy holding it up, not pulling its tail down and weighing the fish.
Right.
We're not going to have that problem in my group.
Right.
My group's going to be solid. But we also have some, how should I say, technically challenged people. I got a couple of guys that have a flip phone in my club.
Right.
But they'll beat your butt fishing, right?
Right.
But
absolutely.
So I can't leave them out.
Right.
But they might have to upgrade their phones. I mean,
keep up with the times.
Yeah, so it's technology too. Right. So, but no, Tim's going to come out with some information that'll be a little bit more firm. I know Brian Hinkle's working on the software steadily on it. They've almost perfected this product, but there's a lot of additional testing that's going to happen.
So P.I.T will basically be the focus group.
Yeah, sure will.
You will be the focus group, and you guys will see how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess at that point, when your group gets it, it becomes trial and error.
That's right.
And then you can kind of figure out, work the bugs out. Hey, Tim, this didn't work, or we came up with this situation.
What a better way to start.
Right.
I mean, and what we're doing, just so everybody knows, is when we're testing this, we are not releasing our fish in the water. We're still coming back. What we're doing and what we did yesterday, and I can actually pull it up on my phone, but I don't want to show you guys this. When I tell you that these scales are so accurate, I had 1575 yesterday on Tim's scales. Now, understand the process is what we're going to get to is video, record, drop the fish in the water while you're videoing to know that fish is gone. That way you can't fool anybody.
Right.
Yesterday, what we did is we caught our fish. We had 4 of them in the live well, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna pull over right now because I'm gonna weigh these fish, and I dropped them back in my live well because I wanted to compare my weight at the end of the day with my best 5 at the scales that we were going to use.
Right.
It was dead on. Logan samples and Travis samples, I'm sorry to say this, but they had 1360. I want y'all to know that. But so they had 1360, and they weighed at the scales 1360. The difference was Tim and JJ on the app said they had 1990. They weighed at the scales of my scales was 20.18. So it was a little bit off right there, but that's the perfect scenario is test everything,
right?
Work everything out, get everything going before there's a release.
I got you.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. That's awesome, though.
So tournament fishing is going to change. We don't know when, but it's primarily for the fish care and how we're going to operate and do some things.
In a situation where something messes up and you got permits with the Corps and there's something the Corps doesn't like, who is on the line?
That would be me.
That would be you.
That would be me.
So what is it about running a tournament that drives you, that makes you want to do this, that makes you want to put your name on the line, on any given Sunday or any given Saturday?
Yeah, well, it's certainly not the attention or the pay. I can guarantee you that.
Right.
Man, you should see the pay. You know what I mean?
Right. I understand. So then you're doing it for another reason.
Yeah. I love fishing and I love competing.
Gotcha.
And I love competing against the best. And this group that we've created, it's exciting. There's a difference of waking up and going and fishing, a 5-10 boat tournament and waking up and going and fishing a big open event with 40 or 50 boats, or the P.I.T Crew event. Man, it's exciting. I like to have a lot of energy around it, like to have a great atmosphere, and bring people together. That's what I like to do. I like to bring people together that enjoy what I like to do.
Right.
And then expand on that from, I've said before, there are business opportunities in all walks of life that are part of this community.
Right.
And the deeper you start to realize that, this individual is an attorney, this individual is an electrician, this individual is, HVAC guy, you can network together and create some extremely strong business relationships that can turn into financial gain for everyone. Not for me, not for Scott Barnes, but to just bring the community together and this group together to give referrals back and forth.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I say just a little bit about you. I assume you fish in the tournaments you run.
Yes, sir. I do. I cast. I cast a lot.
You do cast.
I cast. You know what I'm saying?
You donate. That's what we say we do. We donate.
Yeah, we got a great partner. I can tell you that. Clay does a phenomenal job. Me and him have held our own this year. We actually just won the UGA tournament that was here a couple of weeks back. Clay and I won that one. And again, I fish other tournaments, but I also fish the P.I.T Crew as well.
So let me go ahead and ask you this. Describe yourself as a fisherman. Are you a finesse fisher? You a power fisher? What do you like to do best?
Man,
give your secrets up right here.
Yeah, so I would say I'm 80% finesse,
okay,
and 20% power, because it's just time of the year. I mean, I always have a shaky head or a jig tied on, but depending on the season, topwater season coming in, I'm power fishing. I'm throwing topwater, right? The shad spawn's coming on. I'm throwing a swim bait or something like that, but you'll always find a jig and a shaky head on my deck for sure.
So that was my next question, and they're real easy. Favorite bait to throw?
My favorite bait to throw?
Absolute favorite. Doesn't matter. It's the one bait you love throwing more than anything else.
Yeah, I throw a jig. I'm actually on Spotsticker Pro staff with Ryan Coleman's group, and I actually love his 3/8 Georgia crawl jig. That's what I throw.
That's what you throw. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. What is the absolute last thing you're going to pull out of your tackle box?
Drop shot.
Drop shot.
Drop
shot.
You
know what? A lot of people say that.
Yeah, drop shot. Nope, don't want it. But I have tied one on in the boat and ready at all times? Yes, I do. I think it's got dust on it for 5 years, but I do have one.
What is it about the drop shot that you don't like? Is it feel? Is it just, what is it?
It's me. I can't sit there and do that all day.
Right.
My partner Clay can do it, and he can do. I can't do it. If he's in the front of the boat dropping that drop shot, I'm in the back of the boat casting or doing something else. And there's been some giant fish caught on it, some numbers and quantity, and Jason Johnson's good finesse fisherman. I mean, he's phenomenal.
I've heard that.
20 pounds. I don't know what he was doing this weekend, but I mean, those guys had 20 pounds.
I saw the pictures. Mm-hmm. I saw the 5-pound spot.
Mm-hmm.
And when them spots get that big, they're pretty fish.
Yeah, and this is his time of year, man. I tell you, Jason and Tim, they're really good this time of year.
He's gonna listen to this, and we're gonna have to deflate his head a little bit, like that. I don't know Tim. I know Jason.
Yeah.
But Jason, it's very well known that he likes the finesse type of fish.
Yeah.
And
I would think.
It's what I
At least that's what he's telling everybody.
Is
he lying to us?
I don't know. He won't take me out on the boat. I can't get him. All the years I've known him, he's never invited me fishing.
Fishermen tell the truth. You do know that.
That's
right?
what I hear.
Okay,
yeah. So, given that you tournament fish, that you're on Lake Lanier a lot, what is the next prevailing bite? What is getting ready to come up on this lake?
Yeah, so colder temperatures are already here. It's going to get colder, and you're going to see the ditch bite coming, the deeper fish biting. Doesn't always mean that that's going to be your exclusive bite and your better fish bite, but quantity is definitely going to be in the ditches, and you may find some monster fish in that. Actually, I just did an article with Georgia Outdoor News. Ronnie Garrison came up, and we talked a little bit about the winter ditch fish and the bite that's going to be prevailing, in December, January, February. So that will be coming on really strong. And in some areas right now in the lake, it's already happening. Sure is.
Was that in play this past weekend, you think, with some of the guys?
I do, absolutely. It was in play for us. We didn't do too bad. We placed, I believe, 7th, but yeah, we had a decent bag, but some of our fish were definitely in ditch.
You don't have to give your go-to bait in the ditch, but maybe one example of something that you could possibly fish for, a fish in the ditch.
Man, same thing I just said, that 3/8 spot sticker jig in Georgia crawl. Just get it down there next to the timber or right outside the timber line, just bring it back to you. And then his new bait too is his swim bait head. It's his football swim bait head,
right?
With his pro swimmer, his 3.8 pro swimmer on it is deadly right now. You just keep it on the bottom and slow roll it.
And this is all spot sticker.
Spot sticker.
Spot sticker.
Spot sticker. Half ounce. The football swim bait head with the 3.8 swim bait attached to it. So it just looks like a shad swimming through the water.
Gotcha.
On the bottom.
Okay, Scott, I tell you what, I appreciate you coming down here today
to
enlighten us about not only the P.I.T Crew, but, running a tournament in general. I don't think the average person or average fisherman, I should say, that fishes these tournaments takes really a lot of time to think about what goes on behind the scene. And it's a lot more than I thought. And I want to say, number one, I admire that you put the effort into that because it takes a lot of your own personal time to do that. I also admire why you do that and how you want to bring, the community together. That's something that we really think should be a focus. And to do that and to allow us the opportunity to hear about the new up-and-coming, technology that's going to be used, I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Danny. I really appreciate that. And I want you and Fish North Georgia to come out to our next tournament. It's going to be December 28th, and it's called the Santa Beatdown. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have probably 80-something boats out. Actually, the maximum we can have is 80 boats, but please come out and be a part of it. I really appreciate you so much, and it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Fish North Georgia podcast. If y'all have any topics or guests you'd like to see in the future, leave it in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button, click that bell so that you'll be notified of any future videos. And don't forget to give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram at Fish North Georgia. And we look forward to seeing you soon.